Okay, I think we'll get started. Thank you for attending. This is the breakout A section for small investments can make big impacts on solar. Our speaker that was to be here, as you probably have already heard, was not able to attend. So Josh Moenning and also our illustrious Presidente, John Hansen, will be addressing you. And then I have a few slides afterwards. We're going to basically keep this pretty much Nebraska focused on the New Power Nebraska developments. And these are talks that John and Josh have been taking around the state. So welcome, Josh Moenning, for the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, for all of you who were really looking forward to hear from Trevor from NREL, sorry, you get me and John. We are pinch hitters or called up from the bullpen, whatever baseball metaphor you want to use. I'm Josh Moenning. I am director of New Power Nebraska, which is a state affiliate of the American Clean Power Association. So what we do is assist member companies of ACP as they seek to develop projects across the state. What we're going to do with this session is really talk about what renewable energy generation has meant to the state of Nebraska in terms of investment and local economic benefits to date. So, at the risk of throwing a bunch of numbers your way, I'm going to throw a bunch of numbers your way. First, these numbers are derived from ACP, actually, which keeps track of state facts on clean energy around the country. So this is all Nebraska-based. One of the numbers I want to point out that I think should be eye-opening to a lot of people is that $7 billion. That's billion with a B of capital investment that renewable energy has brought to the state of Nebraska, primarily over the last decade. We've seen a lot of wind development, primarily over the last 10 to 15 years. And if there's another industry in Nebraska that's invested that much money, capital investment over 10 years, I'd like to know about it. What that has meant on the ground, practically, is a lot of new local tax revenue, new jobs, and new farm income for landowners. So you see in the upper left all the projects that are online today altogether bring in almost $22 million in new local taxes across the state through the nameplate capacity tax primarily, which its distribution largely goes to school districts, but some to county governments and other local governments as well. That $46 million number that you see is annual land lease payments to farmers. I can always tell when we're in a period of down farm markets because I start getting random messages from farmers asking about how they can get wind or solar on their ground. We found in renewable energy production, there is actually a really good compatibility with agricultural production. And this is another key way for farmers to generate new income from their land, which is really important at this point in time. All of the energy, so the energy produced in Nebraska from renewables adds up to about a third of Nebraska's electricity generation. And that puts us at 11th in the country for share of electricity from renewables. That's creating jobs. I can attest to this. I was mayor of Norfolk, Nebraska for 8 years, from 16 to 24. Norfolk sits in an area of the state where a lot of that wind energy development was happening around us. I saw it, especially from 17 to about 22. At any given moment, you could count on 300 to 500 wind farm construction workers in our area, and they were staying in and around Norfolk, spending money at the bars and restaurants and convenience stores, and it was a big influx of cash to the local economy. Added these slides just to show the potential. I mean, I think even though we're preaching to the choir here, we lose fact of the sight just how much potential in resource that we have in Nebraska. We are third in the nation in wind energy potential. This map shows it out. What high wind speeds recorded consistently across our state. The yellow dots are where current generation lies, and you can see Northeast Nebraska is a leader in wind energy development across the state. This is solar potential and where our solar generators are. Nebraska surprisingly also has a lot of solar potential. Different analysis has it anywhere from 13th in the nation to as high as 7th in the nation in solar potential. So it's a unique combination in our state of both high wind and solar potential. This is just, again, illustrates the point of where we are in the nation and the world in terms of wind energy potential, this wind energy belt across the Great Plains states from North Dakota to West Texas, and Nebraska smack dab in the middle. Quickly, I'm going to talk about a specific project that's being built out right now in Pierce County, which is also Northeast Nebraska, just north of Madison County. This is the solar project that Javier from OPPD talked about over lunch. All in all, will be a 420 megawatt solar generator, which makes it one of the largest in the Midwest. These rankings are changing by the day because so much solar is coming on, but I think this size of project puts us in the top 10 in the Midwest by the time it'll be done. Another interesting wrinkle and something new for our state is utility scale battery storage, 170 megawatt battery storage project coinciding with solar. There was a study commissioned by UNL Business Research, Dr. Eric Thompson, on the land use of this project, land use impacts of this project. And you can see through the infrastructure investment, through the land lease rates, through the new business activity, the comparison of the solar use versus what had been existing use in crop production. More numbers on local impact. An estimated $360.5 million impact during construction. I can see this and feel this when I'm back up in Norfolk. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I drove up to the site to check it out. And it was after 5 and heading to the site, an endless stream of vehicles with license plates from Illinois and Texas and Florida were coming off the workday, heading into Norfolk and other small towns in the region to stay and spend their money. And they're going to be there for a good deal of time. The estimated build out of this project is another 18 to 24 months. That's 550 jobs, about 550 jobs projected over the course of that build out. Again, I can attest to the local economic benefit of the construction phase of these jobs. And then once they're online, the operational tech jobs that come with them, the annual economic impact from new business activity estimated to be about $6 million. This project lies over about 2,200 acres of land, and the annual labor income from about 10 tech jobs, about $360,000 a year. The tax revenue that I mentioned before, which is real, more than $2 million generated by this project itself per year over the life of the project, which will primarily go to local school districts. That can make a huge difference in the quality of education in our rural schools. It can also help offset individual landowner property taxes, which I think we hear about some in Nebraska, don't we? So yeah, about $1.5 million of that is an nameplate capacity tax, and then there's some personal property tax involved as well, culminating in more than $2 million a year. This is one of the landowners in this project, the Ryan Zimmerman. I've known the Zimmerman family for a long time. They saw the opportunity in solar to use their land to create energy, which is in high demand in the marketplace. And it made sense for them. They're proximate to a fairly new transmission line that came in. This land, if any of you know Pierce County in that region, it's a lot of sand. It was land that they would admit maybe should have been farmed in the first place. In this use, it will start creating energy, and there will be pollinator crops planted underneath, and perhaps sheep grazing. So that agrivoltaics concept is real. It's not theoretical, and this project's going to prove it out. Just one more example of real life benefits. So this is another example of Northeast Nebraska when in Dixon County, Allen Consolidated Schools, the Rattlesnake Creek Wind Farm, which came into being 5 or 6 years ago, and the impact that it had on a local school district and its jurisdiction. Allen was able to, as you can see, reduce their property tax levy of 85 cents in 2017 down to about 62 cents in 2023, about a third reduction in their property tax levy in that school district because of the offset and nameplate capacity taxes that were coming in from the wind farm. That's real money. That's real tax relief for people in that area. Oftentimes, I don't think as a state we talk about the revenue growth side of the equation in terms of property tax relief. Energy generation has been proved out by energy producing states historically, helps states and localities reduce taxes. Again, another thing we do at New Power Nebraska is try to tell the story of real life benefits. So we do testimonial content from convenience store owners in areas where projects are being built that see record sales to the Northeast Community College Wind Energy Tech Program, which I have students here helping us at this conference year to year. Kids who I've met from across the state coming to that program who can stay in rural Nebraska and make good money living in small rural Nebraska towns. Not many opportunities like that anymore, but this is one. Wind tech and solar tech jobs are the fastest growing jobs in the state of Nebraska and nationally. And school administrators who will attest to the game-changing impact of these new tax revenues for their school districts and thusly the quality of education for local students. So I'll stop there and I'll turn it over to John and we'll take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much and welcome. And so the name of the program that we've been doing a lot of different communities around the state. Josh and I are usually either 2 or 4 presenters at these kinds of things. But here's how we talk about renewable energy and renewable energy enhancing resilience and economic opportunities. So, who is Farmers Union and why would we be involved in renewable energy? Well, we're the state's second largest, second oldest general farm organization. We have about 3,500 farm and ranch families across the state. We were chartered in 1913, and we've been serving family farmers, ranchers, and their rural communities for 112 years. And we've had an awful lot to do with helping change the course of history in our state to the advantage of rural communities. That's our job, is to advocate in behalf of those rural communities. And so our members set our policies and they go through our grassroots representative process and they work with the chair of our policy committee, Vern Jansen, who's out in the audience here. Wave, Vern, who's also our state vice president. It can't get much more grassroots than our process is. And so what is our mission statement? Who are we? What do we do? Why do we do it? Nebraska Farmers Union is a general farm organization dedicated to protecting and enhancing the quality of life and economic well-being of family farmers and ranchers in their rural communities. And we've always said, unlike some of our counterpart organizations, is that we don't just represent farmers and we don't just represent ranchers. We represent the communities in which we all live and are a part of. It is a team effort. It is a community effort. And we all do better when we all do better. So what did I just do here? So here's some of the things that we've done in the past, which is, in our view, perfectly consistent with what we do here today. We worked with George Norris to create and support our unique nonpartisan public power system. So if you think about public power, what is public power? It is like a publicly owned cooperative. And so since our organization has helped organize 445 cooperatives across the state of Nebraska in 112 years, it has absolutely, unquestionably changed the course of history in our state to the good by being able to harness the power of cooperative activity. And so we also are a part of providing services to folks who are in need as a part of the Rural Response Hotline and Council, which Vern is the chair of that. I'm the secretary. It's the longest continuously serving farm crisis hotline in America. So it's been going since 1984. We get 5,000 to 6,000 phone calls a year. We suffer no illusions about whether or not the farm economy is working or not, or whether or not farm and ranch families need additional income and be able to pay their bills, buy groceries, and continue their farming and ranching operations. We supported the creation of the Natural Resource District system, and we are the well-known champion of local control and have been for a very long time. And so we're also one of the champions of value-added agriculture. And what is that? It's all those things that adds value to that which we already own, produce, and control. And it's also something that is not some foreign concept. It is a practice. It is an economic activity. It is a viewpoint that works. It has a proven track record, and it has been doing nothing but adding value to rural communities and improving the quality of life. So we have been the supporter of biofuels. We started promoting what we called then gasohol in 1945, and we helped create the Nebraska Ethanol Board in 1971. We brought the bill to Senator Lawrence Schmidt that he passed in 1971 to create the Nebraska Ethanol Board. And yes, there was a lot of opposition to ethanol then, and there still is some now. So you come up with a new idea, I guarantee you don't get 100% everybody on the same page at the same time. That's about par for the course, in fact. And so we also, in addition to organizing cooperatives and all of those things, which we'll talk about a little bit later and the kind of value that adds to the state, we look at wind and solar energy as a part of an economic opportunity. Do you want to take advantage of it? Great. If you don't, that's your call. But it is an additional new way in order to add value to what we already do. And so we have put on easily over 600 of these kinds of meetings across the state of Nebraska, talking about the pluses and minuses of renewable energy. So this is something that we view as a part of our educational commitment. All good things begin with education. We worked with the legislature on renewable issues to bring economic opportunities to struggling rural communities. No major piece of legislation that has anything to do with renewable energy has come out of the Nebraska legislature that we weren't in the middle of. And in fact, today is the 4th anniversary of the passing of former State Senator Cap Dirks from Ewing, who carried LB 629. That was the pivotal piece of legislation that passed with all 49 votes in 2007. And it was the private-public partnership that allowed us as a state to protect the integrity of our public power system while creating public-private partnerships so that those private companies could utilize the federal incentives for wind energy at that time, which were then, of course, reflected in the requests for proposals in the RFPs. And so Nebraska was not competitive with other states because of our cooperative system. Our public power system was not eligible for those benefits. So in order to make us competitive, we came up with this new forward-leaning kind of piece of legislation that we stole from Minnesota. They might have whooped us in football, but when they come up with a good idea, we are more than glad to steal their better ideas. So what does it look like? Take something that we already know. How is that working for us? So if you look at ethanol, you have 2.36 billion gallons of ethanol produced. That puts us as number 2 in the nation in ethanol production. We are, as a state, it is a win-win in our opinion. So as you look at fuel users across the state, they have, thanks to the amount of reduction in the price of ethanol, which is about 30 cents a gallon, our consumers in our state have saved about $237 million because they were able to buy a cleaner burning fuel that was a bioproduced fuel that added value, that improved air quality, that cut carbon emissions about in half. And so corn growers receive, depending on where they're at and the year and kind of what the market particulars were, somewhere in the 5 to 40 cents a gallon as a benefit. About 40% of all the annual corn crop goes through ethanol in our state. And we have, boy, I can barely see that. How many jobs? 1,800 jobs that are producing $182 million. Can you turn that so I can see it? That would be helpful because I'm at an angle over here. Can we make that into the slideshow? Can I make it any bigger? All right. So there we go. So I'm trying to give you some numbers that are helpful to kind of wrap our brain around what it is we're doing here. So we're talking about 1,800 direct jobs in 2022, producing $182 million of annual direct income to those employees, 2,790 indirect jobs. And this is one of the things when you do value added, you not only get the benefit of that particular economic activity, but you get the indirect benefits of all of the other things that come with it as a package that are tied to it. So ethanol, $10 million of direct local tax revenues annually. We get $83 million worth of total indirect induced business tax revenues. And all of this is based on a study that was done by the Ethanol Board with the University of Nebraska Bureau of Business Research. And we get $5 billion of new capital investment in property tax base. We get $356 million of direct economic impact and $3.76 billion of total economic output annually. We get $584 million of additional economic activity. All told, we have 44.52% less greenhouse gases, and we have 630 million bushels of barrels of crude oil that was displaced. So you're substituting domestically produced, clean burning, renewable energy for a fixed amount of one-time use oil, right? There's only so much oil to be had. And when that's gone, it's gone. The beauty of renewable is it shows up again tomorrow. And so here's an interesting statistic as we're doing the update of these slides. is that according to the Department of Energy, 98% of our nation's fuel contains ethanol. And so how can that be? Because most states don't have requirements that require you to label whether or not you have ethanol as a part of the fuel you just put in your tank when you drive in. And it's there because it's the lowest cost source of octane. So, Nebraska soybeans. This is something that our state has become a leader in. At full capacity, Nebraska can process up to 77% of our soybean crop. And so this is not a minor thing. That's 351 million gallons of biodiesel. That is an enormous number. We are fifth in the nation in soybean production, and 301 million bushels in 2024 were produced. These kinds of processing plants have created 19,860 jobs in rural Nebraska. And so that serves 3,882 family members and $679.4 million in wages and benefits paid, $81.1 billion of new revenue that supports and grows the rural economy. And so we have 4 established locations for soybeans. We have ADM in Fremont, AGP in Hastings, ADM in Lincoln, Norfolk just came on about a year ago, and then ag processing just came in David City. So this is an amazing amount of value-added agriculture. I bring all of this to your attention to show you that when you actually use these kinds of policies and strategies, they work. So Nebraska cooperatives, and we're going to need to kind of speed this up a bit, but the cooperatives, and why is that value added? Because that's something that you either grow, you control, or you produce. And so you can control whether or not you're willing to work with your neighbor. And if you are willing to work with your neighbor, you're adding value to what you do. And so these numbers are huge numbers: 5,000 total employees, $398.2 million in annual payroll, $21.9 million in annual local property taxes paid, $14.6 million in annual federal and state income taxes paid, $50.4 million of annual patronage allocation, $38.9 million of deferred patronage allocations, $299 million in annual investments to new equipment and facilities. So they're constantly improving, constantly adding tax value, constantly adding investment. $22.8 million in total charitable contributions every year to the rural communities that they're located, and $3.1 billion of positive annual impact in Nebraska's economy. We are ranked 3rd in the nation as a cooperative state. And we like to kind of take credit for it on account of we organized almost all of those cooperatives. Needless to say, you're in a competitive environment and you're criticized for what you do, what you don't do. Your ideas are criticized. You have every single thing that we have ever done in the state of Nebraska in our 112 years that has been successful, that's added value, that's kept family farmers and ranchers in business, that's grown the rural economy, has come also with a heaping helping of no. No, no, no. And in almost all of those cases, as is the case with wind and solar, when you lay these ideas out, do you ever get a better idea? No. You also get no, because it's just their job to be against it because it's different. So here we are looking at wind, 3,518 megawatts of wind, 17.6 million of new additional value added annual income to landowners every year. This is all based on the Baird Home Study that updated this. 17.6 million of new additional local property taxes, and it is $1,482 in new real property taxes, 3,518, and nameplate capacity. So rule of thumb, about $5,000 a megawatt in additional tax revenue and also in additional farm income. So 2,200 estimated permanent local jobs with good benefits and 7,640 temporary jobs, which are temporary but darn helpful. So here's the other map of showing our national potential. So if you're looking at this, you can see why from Texas to North Dakota, Nebraska is third in the nation in terms of wind energy potential. We are where the wind is. We are fortunate compared to other states who also have needs for additional base load, but do not have our natural resource base to draw on. So in developed wind, Iowa is third, Kansas is fourth, Nebraska is 13th. Even though we have far better wind resources than Iowa, we have far less wind developed, and they also have a bunch more people to work with. So 12 quick reasons to harvest renewable energy. Where are we at in time here? We got, what, 10 minutes left? Pardon? Altogether 10 minutes. So first of all, this is an agricultural activity. It goes on agricultural land. You pay landowners. It's an agricultural activity. And so it's also a form of value-added agriculture. It is also a positive source of rural economic development. It is the private property rights based of the landowners based decision-making about what is the highest and best use for my property. And so my right to have a wind turbine or a solar panel is your right not to. And I shouldn't be able to take away your right, and you should not be able to take away my right. But as neighbors, we ought to be able to live together and have different opinions and still get along. And just because I have a strongly held opinion doesn't mean that I get to not only keep my right, but I shouldn't be able to take away yours. That's it in a thumbnail. So, harvesting renewable energy is an economically and environmentally beneficial business activity. Renewable energy can help meet nearly half of our state's unprecedented need for additional energy generation. Local control can and should be used to grow the economic base of rural communities while protecting the public health, safety, and welfare. And that is possible to do that. Renewable energy triggers long-term investments in rural infrastructure, roads, transmission, energy diversification, and independence, and makes our grid more resilient, reliable, and cost-effective. This is an investment in our own infrastructure. Renewable energy takes advantage of Nebraska's world-class number 3 resources, and it provides critical, additional, dependable, and diversified farm income. And boy, do we need farm income these days. We are in the middle of a farm crisis. Renewable energy development allows Nebraska public power owners to invest our Nebraska ratepayers and owners' money in Nebraska. And so do you want to invest in rural Nebraska, or do you want to invest in our neighboring states? And that's the real question. OPPD had to go to Kansas and buy 3,500 megawatts of capacity because they couldn't find it in Nebraska. That should be like a red flag for everyone. And to not harvest our own world-class natural resources leaves badly needed billions of dollars of new rural investment and tax base on the table, millions of dollars of new rural tax revenues, millions of dollars of new additional farm income, and millions of dollars of the rural good-paying jobs. That all gets left on the table. And so use it, don't use it. The one thing I know about having done economic development for 50 years is you're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. So with that, there's the view from my farm when I look west. And here's the view from my farm when I look east. Guess which direction gets the most gravel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay. the reason I had our NREL speaker who wasn't able to make it was because we are facing a real nexus right now in the state, and it requires some state policy and ideas. And I was admiring what Josh had to say, because in my time with solar, we've come such a great distance. We really have, and we need to sort of keep that in mind. But I want to get back to one little piece here, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A here in a minute. But and then when I opened up the State of the Energy Report for 1984, it said 98% of Nebraska's energy is imported. And I was stunned. I couldn't understand that at all. I thought we had something. We don't. Today, it's closer to 95%. We've got a lot of money that we're exporting. And what I really wanted to say today was, since our tax credit is ending at the end of this year largely, and then for commercial jobs next year, Nebraska needs to refocus behind something like that banner, something like that can be a policy statement. Then we can move forward together, because we're all in agreement on where we're at, and we don't have to worry about the Facebook wonder list. But the point is, we can leverage public power in a way no other state can, because it's all public power in our state. And there's things that can be created, like a green bank or a bond or community funds. All of that will align with trades and education. Our path to self-sufficiency is really right in front of us, and it's easy to do. What Josh is talking about is fantastic material for moving forward. If we turn it just a little bit, so we're doing more self-financing than third-party financing, we got a home run, total home run. This is the only opportunity this generation is going to have to actually change from the fossil fuel model, where we're paying rents to coal all the time, or to natural gas, or to whatever it is, and support ourselves. Recirculate those dollars, those investment dollars from solar and wind and other types of renewables that can actually get us to a state of sustainability in our economy. So I think these are important things to look at. Community solar with investment from communities themselves is a key. Employing people, local labor with local dollars, doing local projects, that's a key. You dangle that carrot of renewable energy in front of a 20-something or a teenager, they're going to get all excited. They'll accidentally become an electrician, but then a construction worker or something, but they'll have a motivation that we won't really have an opportunity to deal with. So anyway, those are my thoughts. The guy from NREL was really fabulous, and he was really displeased that he couldn't make it, but the Community Power Accelerator was his project. And what it does is it provides developers and capital to come together. And so I would encourage people who have capital interests for local projects to look for that. It's easy to find. It's on NREL's site. And that would help spur a lot of that intermediary work that we need to do, and drive down the cost of our transactions for getting solar systems started. So anyway, do we have any questions in the audience? Our two gentlemen are here to help you with that, with the microphone. Yes, one up in the front.
So thanks, gentlemen, for the discussion, especially just the basics that you're providing perspective to people who aren't deep in an understanding and appreciation of this industry. Josh, for you, if you know it, specifically on the TIOSA schools that are equalized with TIOSA funds, can you explain how they are offsetting or not the state funds, and if it's truly an offset or if the schools are net plus?
Yeah, good question. It comes up in this context a lot. The answer is I can't tell you for sure. It is fairly new, historically anyway, for these school districts to be receiving this significant new revenue. So I think, and John might have a better idea. He's closer to the state policy than me. I think there's still adjustments being made to that. But I can't tell you regarding the formula how that works. What if a school district's receiving an influx of new nameplate capacity, what that does exactly to the school aid, direct school aid they're receiving from the state.
It's one of several, well, a bunch of different factors as a part of the TOSA formula. So at the end of the day, if you want to make sure you're actually going to have the revenue one way or the other, you're always better off to make sure you have the tax base to start with. And so the TOSA formula gets adjusted. It also gets adjusted based on available dollars to be distributed and all of those kinds of things. But the superintendents that I know and I work with, and I work in this area a lot, they'll just smile and tell you, when in doubt, take the tax base. There's a question over here.
I've got a question on the agrivoltaics, about trends, need for legislation, and what you see as the potential in the future. First question is about the trends. Do you see it as mainly the family farm that takes advantage of this, or corporate farms, or foreign-owned farms that, is there a trend in that respect? And do you see this having any impact on, well, I think you alluded to it, or maybe stated it, but about how it might save the family farm and reduce the number of outside corporate farming. But then is there a need for legislation? Because some of the solar projects I don't see as really being that agri-friendly. And is there legislation needed on that? And how do you see it long term? Do you see this as a major player in farm economics in the future?
Well, I think it's all over the place. I think you have all different kinds of folks making all different kinds of decisions, and at the end of the day, they think they're going to make more money doing this than what they're currently doing. And so I've seen it used for folks who are transitioning resources to the next generation, or in some cases, the next generation, so the grandkids. And so here's a good, dependable way for us to be able to know that we have a dependable revenue stream and that we can do intergenerational transfer, and we know we're going to have the dollars to make it work as we're doing the transitions. And so, we've got, it's really project by project different, and it's the luck of the draw. And so, in some cases, you have one large landowner. You have a lot of other cases. You have a whole bunch of neighborhood owners who all have bits and parts. The worst land goes first if they can make it work in the project. And as far as being able to use, sheep is one of the things. The downside to using sheep is that then you have to have sheep, right? And so not everyone, going back to the cattle wars, not everyone is in favor of sheep. And so there's more and more folks that are starting to use yearlings, or short yearlings that are doing backgrounding. And they're just a lot less aggressive at rubbing on the equipment, that kind of thing. But we're certainly using a lot more alternative plantings and a lot more habitat friendly kind of plantings. And so it's emerging. It's going the direction I think it ought to go. I just wish it'd go a little faster. But very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add to that. Utility scale solar is fairly new in Nebraska at this point, but we're seeing, I think, mainly family farms having interest in using their land produce energy, and you do see studies, more and more research that's being done that show the planting of pollinators will help increase yields to approximate traditional row crops, especially in soybeans. Even though they're a self-pollinating plant, there are credible studies showing that it increased yields, pod sizes, happen when pollinators are planted close by. So I think there's more and more of an argument to be made where solar can in fact be compatible with ag production and land use. We have to remember that land use is the decision of the property owner to decide, and the market to decide what is the highest and best use of that particular piece of land.
This year, UTAN was supposed to introduce sheep. They wanted to get some of their grasses planted and established first, but they were going to start. I know that they had plans to. I just haven't been there to see it or talk to them about it. But this was the year that they were going to try to start deploying sheep. And UTAN would be, 81 megawatts. That'd be by far the largest solar project in the state.
Cool. Kind of going off that last question, I've heard both good and bad things about solar and wind. When talking with farmers, though, that is kind of negative in their eyes. How do you change that narrative?
I think it's doing more of what we're trying to do today. It's telling the real life stories. I mean, you can talk theoretical numbers all you want, but we're trying to tell the story of what's already happening and illustrating the benefits in, I think, three main areas, and that's new farm income for farmers in a bad ag commodity market right now. There is clearly a lot of interest in finding opportunities to generate new income. So new farm income, new jobs, and new tax revenue. Again, we talk about property tax problems in the state ad nauseum, right? Let's talk about some ways to increase the tax base and take some of the pressure off of individual property owners. Energy generation is one of those opportunities.
It's an individual decision. You get to make your own decision. You get to make your own call. If you're sitting on a bunch of money, you can be just as independent as a hog on ice. You don't need to do it. But if you're a struggling beginning farmer, or if you're a conventional farmer and you're struggling a bit, this becomes a financial decision. And do you want to participate or not? So I've been around long enough also in terms of some of the oldest projects in the state are about 5 miles from my house. A lot of the folks who have wind turbines are folks I know. I can see probably 50 wind turbines from my farm. And so when you talk to those folks, several things kind of stand out. One is that the folks who participated in the project cash the checks. We've never had a problem with somebody not cashing a check. We've also have folks that say, in tough times, this is how we feed our family. This has been the difference maker. This is the good paying part-time job I didn't have to go to town and take farm time away from the farm to get. And you also have folks who are some of the hardcore opposition, who are folks who had the opportunity to participate or not and didn't. And so they're now bitter and they're jealous of their neighbor, and they blame somebody else besides the one who made the decision to do it. But I've had a bunch of people come up to me and say, thank you for doing all those landowner information meetings that you did, because we thought it all over, plus and minus. We decided to make the decision. And if we hadn't made the decision to put an extra 2 or 3 turbines on our farm and ranch, we would not have been able to survive, the tough times. And so that extra little additional amount of farm income makes a lot of difference when you're just really on the edges.